No nation in the world will grow without its diaspora. Diaspora has always been the blessing of nations. If you think about it, everybody you know in the Bible, from Joseph, diaspora, Isaac, diaspora, Abraham, diaspora, Ezra, Daniel, diaspora. Even the idea of Jesus coming down, diaspora, that God came down, diaspora. Jesus went to Egypt, diaspora, coming back home. Israel being formed in a day, diaspora. There is no nation that has grown without a collaboration and organization of its weighty diaspora. The brain drain that we'll experience has now been converted into a potential brain gain. And that gain must be understood by organizing to wake up the diaspora to its socio-economic and political destiny in the continent. The way that we work is that every year, about $48 billion is sent home in remittances. That $48 billion is so huge, it's the biggest income in the continent. But guess what is coming to solve? Welfare economics. The money for shoe, for house, for rents, and all of that. And we know that anybody living abroad sending money home is sending less than 5% of his income. About 95% is still sitting dark in his host country. Now, if we mobilize Africans to begin to understand that they can repatriate just 20% without losing the 5% that they have before, take another 15% and repatriate it home. But that repatriation now is not for welfare economics, it's for investment in ideas. Such that it's not just Americans who are investing in Florida Wave or in Jumia or in any of these countries. Africans can pull resources together and be the one funding the local ideas here. That is the association between local ideas and global relevance. The idea that we will pull funds in our brain gain and bring it home to fund ideas. So we need more incubators made by Africans for Africans, more accelerators made for Africans by Africans, intentionally searching for ideas, investing in ideas.
Okay, that is powerful. I thought that was worth sharing. That message is short and it's, there's no mincing of words. And now we are in the session where we're talking about possibilities and opportunities. And before we do that, I just would like to go back to my screen and share with you the incredible people that we have here. This is my way of just getting time to see that more of them come in before we go start the big conversation. Allowed me to present to you our homecoming experts. Let me present to you our homecoming experts. So we are back. We are back in the studio. And I have to end my presentation. So, so welcome back to the studio. Sorry for that tiny delay. We are talking about the advantages, the possibilities, and the opportunities of being back home, as opposed to the challenges we face when we are abroad. And Stefan, you started this morning by bringing in the analogy of Africa as the mother. And I think your storytelling line just stick with me. I've not thought about it from that perspective. So you are being the great grandson of Africa coming from abroad. And I think we also have the tiny Tesla Consulting that was saying like we were born abroad. We were the children of Africa. We are the great grandchildren of those who were taken out of Africa. And I'm saying you're not the descendant of slaves. You are descendant of Africans who were captured, enslaved, and taken out of the continent. And when we're looking at the conversation from that perspective, there's one thing that I want us to bear in mind. The fact that these people who were captured, our ancestors, they went through so much pain, so much dehumanization. They went through so many, experiences, and they survived. They survived not just the capture, not just the trip on those boats across the ocean, but the plantation, and they eventually gave birth to you. Tell me if they are not heroes and heroes. I want us to look at it from that perspective. And the narrative of saying we are the offsprings of slaves, I think we got to, that's the language that we were taught to use. But from the space that we're coming from, liberating our minds, we need to read between the line and say, what language, what imagery was used? How was it intended to affect us? And how has it been affecting us? And what is the shift that we need to make in ourselves when we are working on our minds? What are the associations that we need to, that are attached with certain definitions? And how do we detach them to the extent that we take away the veil and unveil, take back our power and our dignity most of all. So when I see you, Stefan, I see the great grandson of a mighty African who survived all of those conditions and eventually gave birth to you. And you coming back to the continent, and now I'm speaking to Tiny Tessel, it's like the homecoming, the absolute homecoming. You hear me in the next session talk about Sao Tome and Principe as the return gateway, as a perfect return gateway to Africa. And I will explain that when we get into that session. But Stefan, I just wanted to kind of lay that in and say, having you amongst us, for me personally, it's such an honor. It's a reunion. It's a reconnection. It's a chance for reconciliation, for healing, collective healing and restoration. So when you brought in the analogy of the mother, it fits in for me perfectly. So I want to take it back to you and say, how is the mother treating you? And what are your plans, the plans that you have to restore the mother being back here? Stefan, you unmute yourself, please.
I'm unmuted. Okay, great. Thank you. So I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I agree with you, Beatrice. Language is very important. Hello, fellow panelists, by the way. I always refer to that part of history as people who were enslaved as opposed to slaves, because something can be done to you. It doesn't make it who you are. And as you said, language is very, very powerful. I've been very fortunate to have been brought up in a family who have a very strong, instilled in me a very strong sense of who I am, where I'm from. I mean, no matter where you are in the world, and I've been very fortunate, I travel across the world. You can see Africa. I mean, you can't say where, it's obvious where your heritage is from. The other thing is as words. I have a very strong sense when I'm traveling, especially when I'm at home in the US or at the other home, the idea of the word minority, which I kind of laugh, and it's always a perspective, a minority where? In Europe, you may be a minority. In London, you might be a minority. In Paris, you might be a minority. But as a group, we are not a minority. We are the majority. So minority where? What's the perspective? And if you embody that narrative, it affects the way that you think about yourself and your mother country. So just something to think about there. But for me, as I said, I've been living full time on the continent for the past 15 years, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana. I've been working on the continent for over the past 20 plus years. And what has it done for me? It's an opportunity. If I look at it, forget about heritage, forget about lineage. If I look at just the opportunity, an opportunity where you have a potential market of 1.8 growing to 3.6 billion people. And I think part of being a person who now chooses the continent as home or return home, I think I have some benefits and some detriments. As you know, we are a very tribal people. I have a good friend who now he used to be the head of the Human Genome Project for Africa, and now he serves as the health commissioner for Lagos State. But he told me, I want to make sure, can you still hear me? Because the screen has changed.
Yes, Stefan, I hear you. I just get
Not
you
a
the
problem.
focus.
He mentioned that when the DNA that left Africa that populated the world was a particular DNA, diversity stayed on the continent. Now, what he said was, I can't prove this scientifically, but that might be the reason why one African can't agree with another African on certain things. Diversity is here. So although we may look a lot alike, there's a lot of diversity. What I say as the son coming back is that I have learned to appreciate the diversity, but I also have the ability to see the similarities. And I see a lot more similarities than diversity. I'll give you an example. I'm in Nigeria. I'm on the phone with a friend from Ghana who has never been to Nigeria, just 2 countries over, Togo, Benin, you get to Nigeria. I invite him, like, come and visit. He asked me, but what will I eat? and I laughed and I thought, well, what do you mean? He said, but what am I going to eat in Nigeria? I'm Ghanaian. And I thought, okay, let me see it from your point of view. But trust me, if you go to a kitchen in Nigeria and Ghana, ingredients will be pretty much the same. You'll find something to eat, trust me. And it's so easy that take courage to go visit Nigeria from Ghana. Sometimes you're a bit more what's we're looking for, willing to venture out. He wasn't very willing to venture out. It took someone from the outside to get him to venture. So you had a very specific question. For me, I'm very focused on, as I said to you earlier, helping to be part of a group of people who.
Oh, something happened with Stefan. So Stefan, while we're waiting for him to come back, we will continue the conversation. You are tuned into Africa HomeComers Day 2022. We are having the conversation around challenges and opportunities of being back to the continent, returning to the continent. We have some of our guests joining in from Ghana and from Niger, Dr. Easy joining us. And if you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, those are the platforms we're streaming on. Please make sure to join the conversation. I am really appreciating the Tiny Tessel Consulting, who has been on since we started, and she's really contributing. So we encourage you to join the conversation as well. If you don't know our website, go to followmetoafricasouthome.com. There we have a lot of programs waiting for you. If you're just coming in, I want you to stick, please, right to the end, because we have a follow-up program rolled out for you on where this journey is going to. So we are hoping that you will stick with us right to the end. If you missed the beginning, please make sure to go back and click on the videos. We will not keep them there. The content is just too juicy. We're not going to keep them there forever. So you want to make sure that you watch it before we take them down. And so I see Stefan is back. He was in the middle of sharing something. I'll go back to him and let him finish that thought. And then we will go to Niamey and meet Dr. Easy. And after that, we will continue the conversation. So Stefan, if you will unmute yourself, and welcome back.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I fell off, but the idea, as I said, is that I'm here to build bridges across the continent. This is where I see me spending the rest of my life. This is where I hope that my son chooses to spend his life and his children as well. So part of my mission is to do whatever I can to make this continent more attractive to others behind me.
Stefan, let me stay with you. There's this what little tiny Tessa just sent that you'll see on the screen. I would like you to, what is your thought on that? You know, when you return on the continent, what would be your take on that? Because I think she's specifically, she's born in the diaspora, and you know, you belonging to that that generation. What is your take on that? What advice will you give her, and how are you dealing with this if you face it?
You know, if you heard my earlier conversation about just the analogy of a mother, and I asked you offline, Beatrice, you know, when a child feels anger towards a mother, there's usually a few reasons. There's probably a myriad of reasons, but some of the reasons could be the way the mother treated the child. The child felt abandoned if the mother abandoned the child felt unwanted. And you start looking at these things, I think they're very similar. The question was, I'm now seen as a provider. I've seen children who left home and had to come home and take care of a parent. And that parent now needs them to take care of them. And now the parent is in need, the child is a provider. Things change. Things change. Yes, there are people who will see you as, no matter what happens to me in Ghana, I'm a Bruni, I'm a foreigner. I'm a foreigner. And I have to be patient and help them understand that I'm more than just a dollar sign walking. Why is that? Media as well. Everything they've seen says that things are great in the US. You're here. Wow, you must have, I mean, I know Africans who don't come home for Christmas because they feel as though I cannot live up to the expectation of what is expected of me because I went abroad. So you have to also work on that that narrative. When you come home, there is a perception that's out there. That perception of what you went away for, of who you became when you went away. If you don't have the patience for that, it might not be a great thing for you to do. And it is trying. I'm not saying that it's not trying. There are times where I lose my temper, and it's okay to lose your temper. It's okay. I let them know this is not what I'm here for, but I am here to do my part and help. So I don't disagree that those kind of conversations are had from time to time, but it's part of reintegration. It's you spoke about that a bit earlier as well. It's part and parcel of it.
Okay. So thank you, little Tessel. I hope that tiny Tessel. I hope that makes sense. I would throw the same question to Dr. Easy. Dr. Easy, born on the continent. You know, when we return, when we are expected to be providers, to be great investors, I think what is, I mean, I don't want to take it away from you. What is your experience with that, and what advice will you give, you know, added to what Stefan just said?
Yes, for me, when coming back, as I said before, you must have, first of all, a deep love for your mother. Before you come, you go to your mother again. And if you enter in your mother's house, as he said, as Stefan said it before, you have the rules in your mother's house. So there's a lot of expectation from your mother's side when you come back, and you also are expecting to have something from there. You have to have a strong mindset for yourself before coming back. So the experience we're having on the field is that first of all, you must be somebody who fits yourself into it. And when you come back, you know that you are come back to stay, to do something very important. That is in your mind, that is in your program, that is your, so everything people were gonna say to you, you have your objective, your goals to go through. So you must be fit in your mind, first of all, before you come here. It's very important for also, for those that come in or would like to come, to know something very important, that in Africa, in our motherland, we have time, but we don't have what? From the beginning, somebody said it before, we have time, but we don't have what? As in the where we're coming from, we have watched there, but we don't have time. So here, the mindset is another thing. You have to fit yourself in. You must have another education because you left the place a long time ago and things are changing. When you are back, you must open your eyes, you must open your ears to hear and choose what is important for you to do. That's I would like to add to what Stefan is saying. And it depends where also you are coming to, which country you are coming to. And most of the time, we think that when we are back, we know more than those on the field. It's big mistake. We need to learn from them also. We need to hear them because they are also behind and having more experience when they are on the field. So they are the people who are at home who have the experience in their own. So we need to learn from them. We should not think money can have everything. No, it's very important to think about that also when you're back home.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. The Tiny Tessa, I think one of the things that we're doing, that we're offering also at Follow Me to Africa, is providing that space where people coming into the continent, coming back home, meet with people who are back home. So we have facilitated conversations because I think most of the time, the false expectations that we have of one another has to do with the information that we have. Or the information that we don't have, or the ignorant, or the perceptions that, when you're abroad, you necessarily have money. And when you come, you must bring a lot of money. So, but if we get into a space where we get to know each other beyond the expectation, we meet the human being coming home. We create that welcoming culture. And we get to find out, where are you coming from? What are you feeling? Where do you want to go? How can we welcome you? What do you need to feel at home? And you ask them, how do you want me to come in? Through which door or window do you want me to come in so that you can see the human, the sister, the brother in me before we even get to the state of talking about, what kind of investment, what kind of business. I think we all are still full of wounds. We have different layers of wounds that came with the separation, with the brutality with which we were separated during the time of enslavement when Africa was invaded. And it goes towards the racism that we still face today, or the injustice and the perception that the world has of Africa, of being that continent that has nothing, but which is feeding the world behind the line. A continent that they say it's poor, but no one wants to leave it alone. So all of those perceptions are tied down to the expectations that we have. And then the fact that we Africans say we go abroad for studies, we go abroad for jobs, for greener pastures. It means that when you are out there, it automatically says that you have. But look at America. America has a poor household. I mean, there are a lot of homeless people in America, and most of them are Black people. So we're saying, if we have this space where we can have that conversation, where we get to know each other, where we reconnect with each other, and touch on some of those wounds that we heal, because until we heal the wounds, the investment will not hold. The expectation will always be there. But in the process of getting to know each other and identifying our individual wounds and our collective wounds and healing them, we touch on the human being. That's where the Ubuntu comes in. And then we know, sometimes they're just no expectations. And whatever comes is appreciated and celebrated. So I think that's one thing that a piece of job that needs to be done. And then, of course, the way we communicate with one another is something that is so key. When you come looking flashy and looking like I have it, of course people have expectations that you bring. And when you go into areas where the way you show up. When I moved back to Johannesburg, one of the things that I love is that no one knew me compared to Austria. So I could go barefoot. I could go with just anything. Rats, go to anywhere that I want to go, and no one has expectations because you blend in. So sometimes the way we show up, pack up some of those expectations. And when we have this space where we can declutter and do the clearing, maybe it sets a better space for us to connect from a natural human perspective without some of those expectations that turn us up and make us disappointed, and again, blur the love for the mother to whom we're coming home to, as Christian says. So Keep them comments coming, keep them questions and contributions coming on social media. We are watching and acknowledging you. So, Stefan, I'll go back to you and say, so in conclusion for this session, you have made a conscious decision to stay on the continent. You hope that your son will stay. Where do you see our continent in 2035? 2035, maybe some 8 years down the line from today, if we have more diasporans coming in, but also Africans who have started coming in, and we have those who are on the continent opening up to welcome them, where do you see us in 2035?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball, Beatrice, because that's a great question. I think it's either two answers. It's either thriving or surviving. And why do I say that? Again, this boom in the population of an increase of 100%. I mean, let's think about that. 100% population increase, 1.8 to 3.6. People differ on what those numbers exactly are going to be, but we know that the population is increasing significantly, and that's a lot of young people. Now, the way things are right now, do we have the infrastructure, the systems to make sure that those young people have something meaningful to do? I say we have some work to do, right? So I still think we're in I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm hoping more people want to be part of the solution. So have either of you ever spent any time in Morocco, like near where Morocco borders with Spain, or anywhere in North Africa where it faces Europe? If you've ever been there, okay, doctor, you've seen it. You've seen young men just mulling around the port. Hundreds, thousands of young men just mulling around the port looking for an opportunity to go. Imagine 1.8 billion underemployed or unemployed. It's not going to just be a problem here, it'll be a problem for the world. So where we go depends. It really depends on the ones that are here, what we're doing to solve those problems, the ones that are away, what they're coming back to do to solve those problems. The potential is incredible, but it's incredible either way. Again, my choice is I would like to be a part of it being a positive potential. What 20% of the world's workforce will be here, if not more. It could be a very well-educated and meaningfully employed workforce, or it could be another physical workforce. We don't know the answer yet. I wish I knew the answer. I'm trying to help to make it a better answer, as I'm sure you are as well.
Thank you, Ogo. That was still, a perspective. We all don't know, but once we do what we think we can do, and what I find interesting in that is our determination to stay on the continent, to come to the continent. I think that is going to shape where the continent is going to be for me in 2045. How we show up on the continent and the kind of contribution that we bring, but also the kind of connections that we make is going to shape that for me. I have
those small connections have big, they compound. So we talked about it earlier. You help 20, 30 young Africans, and you'll see how many they help as well. It compounds.
That's right. And one thing that we bear in mind right there, Stefan, is the fact that we are the continent with the youngest. I mean, we have the youngest population, and the fastest, like you said, the fastest growing population, and that's the market. That's the future. When you look at Europe, look at America, they're aging dramatically. And I don't know whether that is what is causing the aggression that is out there. But when you look down here, even though they say we're poor, you still have most of the prestigious mark, the luxury mark, labels, brands. They're all in Africa. So there's a lot of money. When you look at how much money is spent in household consumables by Africans, I mean, you realize how much money we have on the continent. And it just means that the narration that was put in there is still in place. When we start doing our own narration, we change that paradigm and we make the continent more attractive towards 2045. So, Dr. Easy, Where do
Yes.
you see us? You're back. Are you back to stay? Are you planning on packing your suitcases and returning somewhere abroad? Or are you with us? And where do you see us in 2035?
2025, I know that for me, Africa is the place I should stay. And to add to Mr. Stephen, I would like to say that, first of all, to remind my people that um, we need to be humble, as somebody said it before, Mr. Das said it. We need to be humble when we come to Africa to stay and try to see the truth of what's happening where we come from, especially in European countries. We need to be humble to say the truth to our people, our youngest, to tell them the truth, what we were facing there, and what is important to come back home. To come back home to your mother is the place you have everything you need, as Dr. Telemes said it. The place you have everything you need. And what is important to come back from? I gave the example from, for example, for Algeria or Morocco, where you can see the young from Spain, young people are coming a lot to the continent. And Dr. Telema said that they were taking a plane to Sao Tome and Principe, and I find in the plane 80% of people are white people. So something is going on in our continent that we have to wake up early, wash our face, see the right ourselves, and decide to come back home to our mother's land. Very important for we people who are living in diaspora, because you must have the revealed eyes to see the gold and the dust. When you are not, you don't have the revealed eyes, people will take that gold, will know that this is the gold, and take it from you. You will not know. That is happening right now in the continent. We don't know the value of our home. We don't know the value of our continent. It's very important for us to decide to come back, because people are saying, oh, what is the future of our mother land, mother's place, mother's home? What's the future is it? People are saying the goodness of our mother, the goodness of our mother home, motherland, and coming. And we ourselves, we are in the destruction, suffering the place we are. It's very, very important for us to come back and settle ourselves before people take away everything. It's very important. We should put that in mind.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one thing I'm saying is that when we go abroad, we're foreigners. Look at our brothers and sisters in America. I mean, they were born there. They built America, and still they're looked upon as foreigners in America. And those of us who leave the continent to go, you're looked upon as a foreigner. And now you're leaving the continent that is supposed to be home, and you're allowing other people to come here and settle. Look, I haven't seen Africans who own land in Europe. I haven't. So,
Never.
so you think people when they come here and they own all of those, it means that as we let them do it, when we continue to let them do it, we become foreigners in the place that should be home for us and our
Exactly.
children. So if this continues, the question is the next generation, what are they going to live up of our children if they don't own any property, no land, no nothing here, because let's say the Chinese or the Europeans or whoever own their land in their countries and they own our land here. So the reason why we're doing this conversation is for us to see what is it that they see. Is for us to say we need to be able to own and drive that space before we become strangers at home. Because once we become strangers at home, we are strangers everywhere, and we're too many of us, and we're just too smart and too intelligent to become strangers anywhere. Because when you're a stranger somewhere, you can't reach your fullest potential. You can't. You're in someone else's space, and you can only take the space that is given to you, and you can only do what someone allows you to do. So this for me is the essence of saying we need more Africans in the diaspora, if you are out there, you don't need to just come pack your suitcases and come home like they did, but consider starting business, consider collaborating, consider having a home, consider having a retirement home, because as Africans, we don't like retirement homes. And if you want to land in one of those retirement homes out there in Austria, that was like always my nightmare. I don't want to land in a retirement home. So this is what we're saying. I saw my sister Anthea come in, and I wanted to pick her up, and now she's gone. So let me throw the question at you, Stefan. What do you think? Let me be very, very clear on this. What do you think the Chinese are seeing in Africa that we Africans and people of African descent should be seeing? In a nutshell.
When you say that, are you speaking about like as investors, like Chinese as the country, or individuals? I just want to make sure we're on the same.
I mean, more and more of them are moving here. When you get on Ethiopian Airlines on the way to South Africa, you notice that the majority of them are Chinese, and they come in generations. You see the grandmother is there, you see the parent is there, you see the children. And whether they're coming to invest or they're coming to work, the reality is that they're earning their income in Africa. Africa is paying them the salary, and the numbers are increasing. So they must be seeing something here that those of us who are leaving to go die on the high sea on the way to Europe are obviously not seeing. So that is, that is the provocative question to say, what are we not seeing?
Yeah, I think it's a complicated question. Like when I started at the country, they say nature detests the vacuum. China sees the opportunity to invest and invest, as you said. When you look at the world, where the world's growth populations are, you're starting to see a lot of countries who maybe have a declining population or an aging population look at the investment and where the future is, and that's here. As an individual, what I've noticed as well is that you're starting to see a lot of those Chinese workers who might have came in the maybe 10 years ago to work on a project have chosen to stay. I have my own personal beliefs as to why. If you know, in China there was a time where there was a restriction on number of children. There still is a time of that, but they've opened it up a bit, and those children were preferred to be boys, so they had their issues around that. So you probably know that in China, even for males to get married, there's a big thing now. They're actually shipping brides in from other countries. Imagine coming to West Africa as a Chinese male in a country, in your own country, where you can't afford to get married. Probably there aren't very many women, and you come to West Africa where there's 8 to 1. I mean, I'm sorry, doctor, but you don't have to be a doctor to figure out maybe it's not worth me going home. Things are pretty good right here. I can have a family. I can have a piece of land. I can have a food. I can have there's some things where we have not appreciated the simple things of our home, of our mother's home, that strangers have. Does that make sense? So how many of us, I remember going to university in the US, and you meet someone from Nigeria, and had you not been experienced about the world, you hear this guy go, "Oh, my father is very wealthy, and at home I have servants," and and there you're thinking, if you don't know, you don't know, right? So you're thinking, why are you here in this place where you're being treated this way when you have servants back at home? It doesn't make sense. Someone in China is coming. Why are you leaving when you can have this? But I also understand it's about opportunity. When I put my hand up, when I landed on the continent to live, I landed with a pedigree. I was working for Google. I was the head of Google in South Africa. I had the ability to walk into anyone's office and meet them. Now, after I left Google, the question became, do I still have that ability? So I understand me coming home is maybe not the exact same thing as someone who grew up here. I came with some sort of connection, if that makes sense. And for me, it felt like, I would tell my friends, this feels like what I think it must have felt like to grow up white and privileged in the West. You know, if I wanted to meet President Mandela, which I did, I got to meet Nelson Mandela. Was I meeting the president in the U.S.? Probably not. Probably not within 3 months of landing in the U.S. Probably not. But I had that access here. So I think it's like that. It's like that. You leave home with certain eyes. Someone else comes to your home with different eyes. They're looking at this going, look at all the opportunity here. You left thinking, look at all the wahala, look at all the stress. And that's there as well. But it's a comparison. When you go to the UK, did you not have stress? It's a different type of stress. When you go to Paris, did you not have stress? It's a different type of stress, but you definitely had stress. You had stress of fitting in. You have stress of being recognized for what's in your mind, not the color of your skin. You had stress of the weather. You had stress of bills. It's a different type of stress. So I think when people like the Chinese are coming, they have problems at home that Africa fits very nicely to solve some of those problems. Same for me.
I get you. Definitely right on point. Let me go to Dr. Easy. When you have been in abroad, like some of us, you know, we had this colonial education system that, really brainwash you to start thinking like home is where I know more. You knew more. We know more about the European environment, culture, history than we know of our own African history. So we go out there. I mean, when I was going to Austria, I thought like, okay, this should be like home. It's a different language, but I know the history more than I know the Cameroonian history. And then you get there, and then, you're given the integration program. You go through the whole integration program. You learn the language, and then you end up probably getting the passport, and you think you belong. And then just for even small kids, I tell you this, I go to the kindergarten of my children. I keep telling this story. This little brat, 3 years old, walks up to me, 43-year-old woman. I say, I'm so happy for you Africans that you came to our country. Otherwise, we'll be starving in Africa and sleeping on trees. You can go to the supermarket in the village and buy some food. And you think like, my upbringing, I can't speak to anyone like this. Where does this little child have the audacity from to speak to me that way and expect me to kind of be receptive? And so, again, you're in that environment. I mean, when at the airport in Vienna, when I showed them my passport, the officer looks at me and says, you don't look like an Austrian. And when I say, you neither, he says, don't be arrogant. You're in my country. So, Dr. Easy, the question is...
You also have a passport, but you're in his country.
That's right. That's right. And someone just posted on LinkedIn saying, a French guy saying, with my French passport, I can travel freely to 154 countries in the world. With a Nigerian passport, you can barely travel to 50. And when you look at the opportunities and the possibilities that you miss out with that limitation, then you begin to ask yourself a lot of questions. So back to you, Dr. Easy, with all of that background. When you have been in the diaspora and come back to the continent, do you come in through different eyes? Do you see something that you did not see by the time that you left? And does that make you, did that contribute to your decision to say, no matter what it is, I'm staying here?
Exactly, that's true. Before I go through the question, let me give you an example. What I face, for example, in Shanghai, for example. My own experience, I was called by my supervisor. His name is Dr. Wu. Wu means in Chinese, Mandarin language is 5, Dr. Wu. He programmed my to come to the operation room early in the morning theater for the operation. I have to operate the back for my first time to perform that. So he was my professor. So that morning, early in the morning, I came around 5:30 because I have to start the operation around 6:30 to 7. He was waiting for me in the room. When I arrived, the lady who is in the reception have to give me the key, so I will go to change straight and go to the operation room with my interpreter. And she refused. I talked to her, that the doctor who is waiting for me, and the interpreter explains everything to her. And she said, no, that the operation room is full, that if I enter there, I will bring bacteria and microbes to the room. It's not, she will not allow me. I said, what she's saying? She said that, no, I'm dirty, so I cannot go there. It's not possible.
Wow.
And the professor was waiting for me. And at the same time, the doctor of East Hospital, East Shanghai East Hospital, that was the hospital I have to perform. The director is a cardiologist. So he was passing and said, oh, Dr. Easy, how are you? I said, I'm okay. When you finish, come to my theater. I have to show you something. You have to empty the body with all the blood. So he wanted to show me that. He knew that I was programmed to go to perform operation. So the lady was shocked that the director was passing and called me by my name and say later to come spoke to me because she was not understanding English. She cannot speak English. So the doctor called that if I was not there, I said, yes, I'm here. But the lady refused to let me enter, to let me in. So he was so angry and come out and tell the lady, what is going on? The lady said no, because the charter, saw that the charter was full that she cannot allow me to enter. And the guy was so angry and tell them that it was a black man, Dr. White, in Massachusetts, gave him first time the blade for, we call it bisturi, to operate for the first time. And he gave me this address for this old man, African American. I went to see him. By the grace of God, I saw him before he passed away in America, Massachusetts. You see, so that's the things that we face, or yes, we used to face in abroad. When you come back now home, you feel like okay, you're at home, you are free, you learn something, you face certain things that you cannot even explain to the people that they can understand. But sometimes you give your experience to them, but you are more considered when you come back. With your experience you have abroad, they will consider you. But I said it before, but you need to be humble to be able to transmit this knowledge to the others. You need to be humble and tell them the truth. It's not easy abroad at all. It's not easy. So when you come, the most important thing is to be accepted by your people, and that would depend from you yourself, how you show up yourself, and what you have to give back to the people so you can be accepted in the society, and try to let your message in the message you have to give to them. That is a very important issue I wanted to share on this panel.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that experience. I think it's important that we share some of these experiences because it really shows, when you just talk about discrimination and perceptions, but when you share these personal stories and giving, where you come from, it does make a whole lot of a difference. And again, when we share those stories, the people back home begin to understand, again, the journey abroad is not always as rosy as we think it is. So, I think the conversation we need to continue. These are conversations that are so multi-dimensional with so many layers that we need to unpeel in order to find ourselves together. But you and I will agree that when you get the exposure, when you are exposed to some of those circumstances, some of those questions, some of those treatment, that's when you kind of your mind shift to the place when you start appreciating home. You start saying, what happens back home is not rosy, but it's everywhere. When you see that the same Chinese, when they come here, someone who comes with his backpack, a French guy comes here, and you rolled out the red carpet. And I'm not saying we should not do, because that's our humanness. That's where we come from. We can't stop ourselves from doing it. But I just think what we need to do is to understand where people are coming from and understand that what happens, that respect and dignity has to be mutual. It's not a one-way traffic. And just know that your skin color does not make you. Dr. Martin Luther King said we should be treated based on the content of our character and not from the color of our skin. And I think when we look at one another from there, to say not because you've studied and have all the degrees makes you an intellectual, a better human being, not because you have the skin color makes you a better human being, but rather the person, the character that you have is what it amounts to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, Stefan, we are going to wrap this channel. I think the network challenge is being experienced in different places. We're going to wrap up this session, and then we will get ready to go to Sao Tome. The next session coming up is the Sao Tome session, where we really want to give you insight on why Sao Tome is a place that every African, every melanated person must know. So if you have a few words to conclude the session, I'll let you do that before we close.
You're my neighbor, so I'll see you there shortly from Ghana. But I have to go. I'm traveling today, so I have to go and wrap up. But again, thank you for your time. If anyone wants to find me, they'll find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to continue the conversation offline. To sum it up, that this is home. I don't deny my other homes as well. I'm a fortunate person. I have options, but this is the home that I'm choosing to work on for historical reasons and for legacy reasons.
Thank you so much for making time in spite of the fact that you're traveling. We really, really appreciate. Please travel safe, and I will be back. I will come to you. We will have to, with a structured, with a program that we're laying out to facilitate the conversations, but also to connect and demystify some of these myths that keep us from connecting with one another and growing our mother continent the way we should. So thank you so much, Stefan, and
thank you.
Thank you to those who joined this session online. Tiny Tessel, we really need to get an in-depth conversation, and I will connect you to Stefan as well. And we're happy that you're on the continent. And those of you who are out there listening, we see and acknowledge you. Please click on the next link and we will join you in the next session, and we will go discover Sao Tome and Principe, the place that I call the jewel of Africa. So Stefan, you keep well, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.